Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio, podcast, and television show. I'm your host, Life Coach Marina Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is SIMRAN. SIMRAN and I are going to be talking on the topic, how the universe is communicating with us through signs and symbols. Now, this is the first guest I've had on the show speaking on this topic. I, of course, as a Christian, I follow the rules of signs and God talking to you with signs and symbols. And Deepak Chopra introduced me to the word synchronicity. And in fact, my very first book that I wrote discussed this particular topic, synchronicities. So yeah, stick around. We're going to understand today how the universe speaks to us through signs, symbols, and synchronicities. Welcome, SIMRAN.
Oh, it's wonderful to be with you, Myrna. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yes. You're very welcome. I look forward to the conversation. I love conversations. I love what I do. And I love learning every week along with my audience. All right. So let me guys give you a short intro. SIMRAN is the author of the book Signs, Everyday Encounters with Pathways, Turning Points, and Divine Guideposts, a book in the Common Sentience book series. She's a love catalyst, rebel humanitarian, and sacred soul activist. As the #1 rated host of 1111 Talk Radio and publisher of the Nautilus award-winning 1111 magazine, SIMRAN creates art, online courses, books, and media to bridge humanity's experience and expressions. A TEDx speaker, SIMRAN speaks about the beauty of our humanity in all of its expressions and the radiance of our divinity as an external experience. SIMRAN is the author of the Gold Award-winning books, Conversations with the Universe, Your Journey to Enlightenment, and Your Journey to Love. She's also released a new trilogy on self-realization. The first one is called Living, The 7 Blessings of Human Experience. Second one is called Being, The 7 Illusions That Derail Personal Power, Purpose, and Peace. And the third one, Knowing, The 7 Human Expressions of Grace. SIMRAN resides in Charleston, South Carolina, and is devoted to the journey of the soul. Now, I don't know what's been happening, but I'm talking a lot about the soul on this show recently. So we're just taking a different twist to it today. So I love your journey with the soul, SIMRAN. And this is interesting and very, specific work. So as we start off, can you give us a background on how you started learning about how the universe is speaking to us through signs, symbols, and synchronicities?
Absolutely, Myrna. And I'd love to take off from the devotion to the journey of the soul, because we are either here living for our soul or we are here living for our ego. And with spiritual maturity, we begin to realize how to find the union of those two so that we truly are living an empowered and service-oriented life that is the full generosity of spirit. And I think that for most people, my journey began as theirs. We often have a lot of dysfunction or unconsciousness or questions in our minds as to why certain experiences are occurring the way they're occurring. In my situation, it was a personal relationship. It was a very, very challenging experience. And I had done everything possible to try to accommodate myself, to change, to be who I needed to be, to fix every aspect of what I was internally and what I was externally to conform to this individual's need. And for women and for those men that have done this, you may discover that that is exactly how you lose yourself. And that is the pathway to finding ourselves. That is part of the journey of the soul. And so in that place of losing myself and really being in a state of confusion and not understanding why the world felt so hard and uncomfortable and painful and challenging and stressful and all of those things, I went into my prayer room. I have a prayer room in my home. And I went in there and I prayed and said, just send me a sign, send me something. Let me know I'm not alone. I just right now really need to know that there is something bigger than me out there. And the next thing I knew, I started receiving these experiences with the numbers 1111. I would see the numbers dozens of times a day, up to 30, 40, 50 times a week. They would appear on any and everything imaginable, from billboards to license plates to mailboxes to store receipts. They just would show up, and it was undeniable. So either, number one, I was losing my mind and really going crazy, or number two, the universe really was speaking to me. And whether you want to term that as universe, as source, as God, as love, what I'm talking about is that which is bigger than all of us and yet unites all of us in some way that we are interconnected with. That aspect of life was letting me know that I was not alone and was about to open the doorway to a whole world of signs and symbols that I never even imagined possible.
Wow. Did you ever went and researched what 1111 means? Because I know numbers mean something. Did it mean anything?
At that time, it didn't mean anything to me because I was very much a novice on the spiritual path. I had my own faith. I had my own connection to God. I believed in God. And yet there was some piece of me that felt very disconnected. It was a very subtle piece, but it was this disconnection of, okay, God is there, but it's out there and I'm here. And how do I get from there to here and get these two
Right.
to combine? And so, you know, when you're in the middle of challenge and dysfunction, so often the last thing you think about is, you know, what something means. Sometimes it's just this kind of experience where what is happening? How is this happening? And is this what life is really about? And so it went on for quite a few weeks because I was in the midst of attempting to get this partner of mine into rehab to deal with a lot of the dysfunction that he was going through. And so when you're in that place, you know, it feels chaotic. You're just trying to get through the day. You're not really thinking about anything. But every so often, these numbers 11 or 1111 would appear and they'd make me pause. I'd go,
Mm.
oh, there's that number again. That's odd.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, and
yeah.
that's how the signs start. That's how all of us are seeing something. You may be seeing 11s or 1111 or 222 or 333 or any host of the numerological numbers, or you may be seeing something else. Maybe it's a cardinal, maybe it is a feather. There's something in your world that is appearing to you. It might be a word like believe. There's something that constantly shows up in your life, and it usually shows up in those moments that either you have a question that you're really struggling with, or it comes along in the exact moment that you're dreaming about the life that you really want to live, the choices you really wish you could leap into, but you don't feel like you can. And the numbers and the prompts or the symbols and the signs, they show up as comfort to let you know that the universe really does have your back. And they will show up as confirmation if you are wanting to take a certain step and have been too afraid to.
Yeah, that's good. Outside of the Bible and outside of, I'm a Christianity, the only other place that I've seen signs and symbols is in the book The Alchemist. And in the book The Alchemist, the main character was dreaming about something, and then he was being directed to his, if you want to use the word, enlightenment, because from the beginning of his journey to the end of his journey, he can speak to the wind and he can follow his heart. And that book was one of the best books that I've read as far as an alchemist is turning lead into gold kind of thing, and it's transformational book. But yeah, I mean, and after I read the book, I got into looking for the signs and the symbols. But I that certain things only stay with you for a little bit until you're reminded again. Like, your knowledge is only good if you use it. So what did you do when you started seeing this 1111? What was your next move after you figured out there was a sign or a symbol? I'm not sure which one it falls under.
Yes. So, the signs showed up for probably 4 or 5 weeks before I got frustrated enough at not knowing what they meant that
Mhm.
I again spoke out loud. And that is a key point that I talk about in the new book Signs. A lot of what has come to me is because I allowed myself to speak out loud. And I think that our voices and our words have a lot of power. They create a command, they give a message, they are part of the conversation. That and action, inspired action, is another way to have our part of the conversation. And so I kind of frustratedly yelled out, either tell me what these numbers mean or make them stop. And in that moment, I got this knowing of what the 1111 signified. And that specifically signified a gateway of four pillars that we are each to walk through to
Mm.
create mastery in our lives. And those four pillars are physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And that every experience that comes in our way is part of that mastery, that we are here to allow ourselves to engage those four pillars to grow us in our spiritual maturity. And so once I understood that, and then I got downloaded with this uh, visions of 1111 magazine and 1111 talk radio and books that I would write and things like that. I wasn't sure how any of those things were going to come about. This was all very new to me. But what really became apparent was, okay, the universe is talking to me. Like it's showing
Oh,
me, it's given me an information. If the universe can speak to me through numbers, how many other ways is the universe talking to me that I never even fathomed? And so
yeah.
that began my own research into life to just be more present and aware as to what was showing up for me. And what I began to discover was that the universe speaks to us in all kinds of ways every single day, multiple times, using everything around us, that the extraordinary is actually in the ordinary. And that's what I want individuals to know, especially those that feel like they're alone or that they're lost or they're facing a challenge that they don't know how to maneuver. You have support, and your life, the signs, the different things around you are supporting you in knowing what these different experiences mean and also what the next step is to take.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. All right. So, right before we go any further, let's talk about the difference between a sign, a symbol, and a synchronicity. Can we label them so that as we go on into the conversation, people will understand what we're talking about?
Absolutely. So I term signs as those types of things that appear as the uh, mirror reflection, the momentary guidance, the inkling to act or move or be inspired to make a shift or a change. That's why the subtitle of the book has to do with pathways, turning points, and divine guideposts, because signs will initiate one of those three things for
Mhm.
you. And each of those has their own purpose. Symbols to me are already full of meaning. They have a specific meaning. They stand for something. They are an emblem. They are a mascot. They are something that you use as a totem. So symbols would be something entirely different that you would embody the energy of. For example, you may receive a cardinal as a sign at one time to be more colorful in life or to be using your voice a little bit more. And that may be a one-time sign, or a cardinal might be a symbol as your animal totem, which means that is something that appears ongoingly for you. And it is something you are here to embody. It is really almost like your own very personal archetype or mascot. And the same could go for all types of archaic symbols, sacred symbols, different things that we see, the tree of life, the flower of life, the cross. All of those types of things are symbolic of a certain energy, a certain sacredness, a certain embodiment that we are to have. Synchronicity to me is when we are completely aligned, when we are aligned in time, in space, in dimension, when higher self and lower self have come into union. You will have moments of synchronicity. And when we really do master all four of those pillars and we become completely aligned in our masculine and our feminine, what you will discover is that synchronicity is all of the time. It is only when we are out of time, when we are misaligned, does synchronicity happen as these momentary instances where we all of a sudden go, oh my goodness, I had synchronicity.
I guess that's where I'm at. Yes, yes, yes. So that's amazing. So yeah, all right. So let's dive deeper in. Now, I think you also say that a sign can represent one thing to one person and something different to another person. So we're talking about the sign 1111 right now. But let's say that maybe a sign could be, can a sign be like a rainbow or something? Or that's a symbol?
Yes, a sign can be a rainbow.
Like a rainbow. Okay, so let's use that one. So if I were to look out the window and I see a rainbow and I was asking God for a sign, or I'm in a different space and I look and I see that, and to me, that is a sign for something I've been asking. But there's millions of people on the planet. A lot of people are seeing that rainbow. So how can it be different for me or for them? Let's put us in that space of that conversation.
Sure, sure. And one thing I'd like individuals to know, and I teach through the book, is that when we encounter signs, there's a general meaning for all signs. You can ask Mr. Google and he will tell you everything, every kind of meaning of every kind of thing that there is. And then there is a more intuitive understanding of the sign. And that's where we get into this place of divergence, where a sign may mean one thing for you and one thing for someone else. For example, I was with my best friend whose husband passed away a year ago, and we were planting some flowers in her garden, and a cardinal appeared. For her, and I didn't know it at the time, the cardinal was a symbol and a sign of her husband who had passed. That was a way in which he sent the message that I'm around you, I'm okay, I'm
That's
supporting you.
beautiful.
And that was something that they knew together, that that would be the way
Right,
show
right.
up, show up,
Nice.
and one of them passed first. For me, a cardinal has always been the sign of use your voice, let yourself be seen, that type of thing. And so this cardinal flew in and she got one message and I got
You got
another.
a different one.
Same thing with a rainbow. For a rainbow, that may be for someone that prosperity is on the way. For another person, it may be the one who has just passed is letting you know that they're fine. For another one, it may be you are opening to a brand new world and moving to a higher dimension. So it just depends on where you are and what you're thinking and how you tap into that more
Right.
intuitive sign to get your personal dialect, because that's when we really can take advantage of the sign showing up, is to tap in to our personal dialect. It's when you stop looking at Mr. Google, you don't ask anyone else, you close your eyes, you take a breath, you breathe, and you allow your intuitive nature and guidance to bring forth what that particular sign actually means for you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah. You know, we the next question I have here is, what does trust have to do with seeing signs? But you know, as I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you, I'm putting my personal filter on, and I know that a lot of times, I don't, like I said, after reading the book, The Alchemist, I was in the space of seeing signs and symbols and stuff, and then I stopped. But what I do on a constant basis is look for guidance from my intuition. And when I receive the guidance, I'm trusting that it is something I need to act and I need to move on. So, how does trust come into seeing signs? I mean, if you are somebody that's not connected and don't think that God can speak to you through a sign, but I just think I answered my own question because you were seeing it even though you were trusting. So, yeah, answer that question for me because I'm starting to ramble here.
Absolutely. When I began seeing the signs, I didn't realize it at the time, but looking back now, I can see that I was not trusting, that I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust people around me. I didn't trust life, and I didn't trust God. And I think that that's a very unconscious, subtle place that most people, if they were really honest to themselves, would find themselves, that there is this guardedness or a lack of trust because sometimes life doesn't work out the way you think. And that creates this kind of division that, can I really trust? Can I really trust that God's going to be there for me? Can I really trust that life's going to work out? Can I really trust myself to make the right decisions? And when I started moving through the signs and allowing them to deepen me into my intuitive guidance, trusting that, allowing me to have steps I could take more courageously, then I started to develop that sense of trust because I would ask, what is this sign meaning for me? What is it here to teach me about me? And what is
Right.
it here to inspire as the next part of the conversation? What's the inspired action I'm supposed to take? And as I would take those steps now, I would start to see that the universe would now bring another sign or open a door or introduce me to someone. And then all of a sudden, this whole new series of events would unfold in my life. And so it began to build trust in me that I can take steps. And whether or not I take the correct step, a sign or something will show up to either course correct or to help continue me on my path. It also helped me to then start to trust people outside of me, to not take the filters of the pain that had been there and apply it to every relationship and person that I came across, but to be more open to trusting people right off the bat. And that meant also trusting life and trusting God would be there. Now, there may be some people that say, well, I don't believe in any of that stuff. I don't believe in God, or are signs really going to work for me too?
Right.
And the thing is, whether you believe or not, infinite spirit is brilliant in its own wisdom and understanding of who and how we are as human beings, both conscious and unconscious. And the one thing that is true about all of us as human beings is we're very outer focused. We're always looking externally for things, whether it is to fill ourselves up, whether it's more money, whether it's love, whether it's purpose, anything that and everything that we need, we're looking outside of ourselves most of the time. Infinite Spirit knows that, and so uses the external to get us to come back inside. It
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
makes sense to use what's around us because
Mhm.
that's where we're looking. And the more we look and we have those pauses that kind of take our breath away for a second, that actually have us stop and get still at a time where we're usually so busy and distracted, those are the moments where we actually reconnect to the heart, where we take a deeper breath than we might have normally, or where we sit back just a little bit differently and go, maybe I need to do something different, And so it really does build not only a sense of trust, but strengthening of the intuition the more that you follow this path. And I think that's the most important thing that I want individuals to know about this new book, Sign Sacred Encounters with Pathways, Turning Points, and Divine Guideposts, is this was my personal growth path. And it exponentially grew me. And anyone can do this. It's simple. It is a very simple and fun way to use life to personally and spiritually grow you. And once you know that you have this partnership with life, this partnership with spirit in a whole new way, then you'll never look at life the same way again.
Yeah, that's true. Now, as you were talking regarding trust, I remembered what we started off with, where you were in this really this relationship that was testing you as far as your strength. Paraphrasing. But the reason I'm bringing it up now and I'm circling back is because most people, when they're saying, God, show me a sign, it's going to be a sign for movement, right? Should I go? Should I stay? Kind of thing. So when you were seeing this 1111, when you were still in your relationship, is there any time you said to God, show me a sign whether I should go or stay, or show me a sign that maybe I need to stay and help this person. You said something about him being in rehab. So sometimes our mission is to help another soul and not necessarily to leave. But did you ever go through that turmoil where you say to God, show me a sign, what I should do, stay or go?
As my experience unfolded, I started to gain these knowings. And part of that was because the mastery, when you start to really look at things from that physical, mental, emotional, spiritual space, and you start to ask these questions about the signs that come up, which I share in the book, I started to understand life in a different way. And what I knew to be true is that you are not on a journey, you are the journey. And if I am the journey, that means that every single experience I'm having is there to grow me, to expand
True.
me, to
I
enlighten.
absolutely agree that. Right, right. Mhm.
And I also became very aware that you are experiencing itself. You are experiencing itself.
Right.
And so I've never really been one that's gone to God and said, okay, show me what to do, tell me what to do, because that is opposite of me being the journey. That is opposite of experiencing itself. If God is wanting to experience life through me, through my eyes, through my choices, through my ears and my filters, then it is up to me to create that life adventure, knowing that I'm in partnership with God in terms of understanding some steps along the way, but that the choices would be mine so that my story, my mythological story, would be very unique and of its own kind, because each of us are a divine piece of the puzzle. And so we're here to live our unique piece of the puzzle in that way. No one is going to be able to tell us what step to take, what choice to take. And God is so loving, the universe is so loving, that it would never interfere in how our life is going to unfold. That is up to us. And we are successful no matter how life appears, because it is all about simply being the journey. So whether you are someone that is the billionaire, or you are the one that is the homeless person on the street, whether you are the person that is the president of the United States, or you are the stay-at-home mom, that is God living through you with an
Yes.
experience that God has never had before. And so from that place, I just constantly use the signs more as a gauge to say, okay, what level of mastery am I really here to learn at this moment? And in that case, it would be, okay, am I supposed to be here and help this person? Or is this a moment where I'm supposed to understand what it means to unconditionally love a person and walk away and allow them their healing in that way instead? And so it grows your discernment as to how you're to be on this planet and who you're to be here as a divine being that is representative of spirit in body.
I love that. Absolutely love that. Yes, yes. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, one of Deepak Chopra's favorite saying. And basically you're right. It's the universe that is experiencing the world through our individual human nervous system. And I love what you said about yeah, because I always, as I grow, mainly from being in a personal development space, talking to guests like you, but as I was going through my journey, I thought that, hey, you know what, when something shows up that you don't like, then you should leave. Right. And then as I'm going through this journey, I'm understanding exactly what you said. I didn't put it like that, but I know that every experience is here to teach us a lesson, to grow us. And people go through a tremendous amount of pain and suffering, but it's teaching them something. And a lot of times, if you're in a relationship that is challenging, I've heard it said that, I think it's Eckhart Tolle said it, and I believe and I agree with that it could be your ministry. It could be what you were here to learn. And I love what you said, either to love this person unconditionally and leave, or it is part of my ministry that I need to stay and walk with this person, help them out, or maybe I'm the one that's supposed to help their soul to experience whatever it is. But yeah, and what you're saying is that you don't say, God, show me a sign. What you're saying is that you are going to be learning internally what you should do. If you're connected at all, then you're going to understand internally what that you're supposed to be doing. I love that. Yes, this is deep. I love that.
Myrna, I'd
Um,
like to get a little bit
but
further in that, and we'll use that example of whether or not to stay or go. The reason that I like to point out the 1111 and the 4 pillars is because when we reach places of spiritual mastery, we're allowed to then create new experiences. We can transcend that experience. Because if you are the type of person that just says, okay, I'm going to leave this relationship,
yeah,
you are more, and you're leaving in an abrupt way, and the relationship is not healing in any way, what you'll more than likely do is recreate the same relationship with another face and another body. If you're
yes,
the type to stay and says, it really is my obligation, I'm supposed to be a good human being, I should stay here and help this person, then what you're going to do is actually be in a very codependent relationship. And so we're here to really master how we are being as human beings. And so whether you stay or go really doesn't make a difference, because where you are in life, I agree with Eckhart Tolle. That is your ministry. That is the
yeah,
place that will grow you the most in life. And so
yeah,
if you choose to stay, then what mastery looks like is reaching a point in neutrality where you can be witness, where you can hold space, where you're not attached to them healing, where you can love them unconditionally, where
yeah,
life can unfold for them and it not affect you, that you can
yes.
hold your energy and your mindset and your position in a manner that is neutral and loving. If you are making the choice to leave, then I tell people you can't leave until you can stay, and you can't stay until you
Oh,
can leave.
I love
So you
that. I
have to
love
get
that.
yourself neutral before you leave. If you're
Yeah,
leaving with any sort of anger, any sorrow, any blame, any shame, that is how you recreate that again, because you're carrying that energy with you to then attract another person, which is a sign. That would be another sign as to where
mhm,
you need to grow in sign. And that's what all the signs are. The signs that appear for you are here to show you you. I tell people to ask 5 questions, and the most important one is the first one, and that is, where is that in me? And so if I am dealing with someone in rehab, even if I'm not a person addicted to substances, where is that in me means there is an addiction here that I'm not seeing. I don't know what that
mm,
addiction is. My addiction might be trying to fix this person. It
yeah,
might be trying to save this person. It might be trying to, stay within a culture that's no longer fitting me. So I had to figure out, where's my addiction? I can't leave until I understand what this mirror, this sign is trying to show me about my own addictive behaviors that I'm unconscious of. And so the same thing goes for any type of sign that you will experience. I talk about in the book things like plumbing that breaks. That is a sign. A fender bender in a car is a sign. A broken ankle is a sign. Every single thing that you experience is a sign showing you more about you. And that is the invitation that life offers us through signs, symbols, and synchronicities.
wow. I love that. And I don't know why this popped in my head. This is not going to play for a couple of months after this recording, but we're recording this the day after the championship game between the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics. And in the very first play, Tatum twisted his ankle, and everybody's saying you got to tough up and play through it. And as you were talking, I'm thinking you're talking about a broken ankle or a twisted ankle as a sign. So that was the sign I'm seeing for him to figure out what he's made of. Are you gonna play through it like everybody's saying, or people were talking today how every minute he's crying, and the referee had to say that's enough from you. But That is good. That is good. I mean, boy, it's we're talking deep here, and might be going over some people's heads. But
Myrna,
you
which ankle was it?
what was that?
Which ankle was it? Was it his right or his left?
I think it was his right.
So the body is one of the most wonderful vehicles of signs that we can get. And the right side of the body is our masculine side. The left side of the body is our feminine side. And so when something happens on the right side of the body, that is always related to the male caregiver that we had growing up. And when something happens on the left side of our body, it's always related to the female caregiver that we had growing up. The right side is our masculine energy, which has everything to do with action, either the shadow action of forcing and pushing and being dominant, or the healthy masculine, which is inspired action. The left side of the body has to do with feminine energy, either the shadow feminine, which has to do with manipulation or suppression or being dominated, or the healthier feminine, which has to do with feeling and creativity and birthing. And so if he has injured his right ankle, then number one, that part of the body from the waist down has everything to do with the root chakra, which is about trust. That means there's a lack of trust that is going on inside of him, and it's making his foundation wobbly. It's actually breaking his foundation, correct?
Yes,
Because
that's what
ankle.
happened.
But
Yes,
also the right side, which means he's pushing, he's forcing himself to do something that
yes, and he was. You're hitting it
wants.
right on the head. It was game 7, and he had to do something. But you're right. You didn't trust because everybody said that no team in the whole entire history had ever come back from 3 down to win. And you're right. That probably played in his head, and that's what happened. That was good. I like it. I'm glad I decided to bring it up.
That just shows how life is constantly giving us the messages, and
Yes.
it's a message for him. But now, because it was brought up in this show, it's a message for everyone else as well. Where am I pushing too much? Where am I not trusting? Where have I
Right.
forgotten to sit back and receive instead of always thinking that I'm the one that's got to carry the ball and run? These are the things that we can take from life to garner our own wisdom and to return to our truer, more natural self, because we've all been conditioned by those that we were reared by the media, by society, and we've been turned into these beings that have become more robotic and conditioned rather than the natural, organic, playful, divine child that we were born as. And the
Yeah.
return is to that level of innocence, to that level of openness and creativity. And that's why mastery is so important. That is why the signs are showing up. They're trying to point you back to the truth of yourself, because that is what your soul desires for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. I love it. So, there's lots of ways for the universe to speak to us. The universe or God, interchangeably. So, we're using all those 3 interchangeably. They can communicate with us through, like I said, intuition, angels, dreaming. But what does your research tell you? Why does the universe speak to us through signs, symbols, synchronicities?
I think on some level that every person does ask for a sign, whether you were someone that verbally did it like I did, in some way, whether it's through prayer or whether it's just inside yourself. You're wanting that connection. Ultimately, we all want that connection, and we all know deeply inside that something's not right. I'm not being who I was brought here to be, because there's certain aspects of life that feel misaligned, that don't feel right. And so the signs appear to help you reconnect that head and heart line back to your gut, so that you really do create this alignment inside of yourself. And the signs will appear in all manner of ways. It will show up as books or songs on the radio when you're driving down to somewhere and you have a question in your mind. That perfect song will come on. It'll show up as animals, as angel messages. It'll show up as experiences, like I said, a fender bender, a promotion at work, a lottery win, a rainbow, something that goes on with your body. It will show up in all manner of ways for you to pause and reflect. And the way that you know it's a sign is not because you're driving down the road with binoculars going, is this a sign? Is this a sign? Is this a sign? That's not how it works. Sign is
I like that
something.
one.
A sign is something that will literally catch your eye or catch your ear, and it will make you pause in a certain way. It's like you can't take your eye off of it for a second, or your ear hears it in a different way, or you get uh, tingles on your skin because something has happened. You'll notice yourself still inside. You might even internally say, was that a sign? Because that's what it would feel like. And that's how you know that it was a sign. And it's a moment to pause and really reflect on what that is trying to tell you. I think as human beings, though, what we tend to do is we get really excited about the sign that shows up. We want to go call a girlfriend or tell our parent or our child or somebody, oh my God, you won't believe what happened. I just got a sign. This is what it was. And the next day we've forgotten about it. And what
Yeah,
I've come to realize in my
that's what
last
I
decade.
said. We don't stay in the space for too long. Something else comes in, like Jesus said, and knocks out. The wind comes around and blows it away. Right.
My
That's
first
beautiful.
book about signs was Conversations with the Universe, and that
Mhm.
very much spoke to all different types of signs. This new book on signs is a decade later, and what I've learned in that decade is it's not just one sign every once in a while. These signs are happening ongoing, and when you string them together, you are actually being given paragraphs, dialogues from universe and spirit. And I illustrate that in the book as to how signs threaded together across a decade to reveal a really beautiful story. And that can happen for each one of you.
So that's amazing. Now I need to revisit this. So if you were to tell someone that's just getting started in the signs, should they get your first book, Conversations with the Universe, or if they get your current book, you are going to start from the top and go to the end?
I think you can start at either book. The new book Signs is a very comprehensive way to have an understanding of what signs are. And the middle section is many other people and their stories about signs so that you realize it's not just me saying it. We're all seeing something, we're all having this interaction. And the third section of the book actually gives you practices to develop your own conversation with the universe. Once you've read this book that has just come out called Signs, if you want to go deeper and really understand some different examples and a lot of the other ways that the universe is speaking to you, then I would definitely go back and order my first book, Conversations with the Universe. It's a 3-time Gold Award winner, nationally and internationally, and it has a tremendous expanse of how signs appear and how to incorporate that information using your daily life.
Yeah, I would like to learn that. Um, yeah, I have no input on that at all, other than the synchronicities thing. So we didn't touch on that yet. We spent a lot of time talking about the signs, but uh, you know, you kind of said that we're in synchronicity every day, but we only recognize the one that are out of synchronicity. For instance, when I think about synchronicities, we're saying that coincidences. There are no coincidences in life. That every moment is as it should be, and I have the knowledge to recognize that there is no coincidence and there's synchronicities. And I can't bring one to mind right now, but I know that when I wrote my book, I listed all the synchronicities that happened in my life that guided me to where I am today. So talk about that a minute again, about how we're always in synchronicity and we only notice the ones that pop out. I think that's what you said.
Yes. In the new book Signs, I have a section on synchronicity, and I do talk about things like deja vu. I talk about dreaming. I talk about some of those aspects of synchronicity. And I think the best way that I can explain it is you're driving down the highway and all of a sudden there's an exit. and you take that exit and you go off on this scenic route, right? But then you end up back on the highway. The moment you end up back on the highway, there's that exact fruit stand that you were looking for, that synchronicity. When we go off on our scenic routes, oftentimes we're out of the direction or out of alignment, out of time with exactly the things that we're supposed to line up with. Synchronicity tends to happen when we get back on track and we actually are in the right place at the right time. And that synchronous type of thing takes place. I don't think there are any coincidences, but a lot of people call them coincidences.
Yeah,
What
I
I've
don't
come
know that
to
either.
learn
Yeah.
in my own personal growth and self-realization after 7 books is that synchronicity is everywhere. Our ego wants to look at only the good things, the things that we want as the synchronicity. But sometimes synchronicity is also that moment that you get fired from your job. That can be a synchronicity because that was a pivotal moment to get you back on track. So synchronicity can show up a lot of different ways. And in the end, what the signs are attempting to do is to help you really become neutral and span out so you see life from this grand perspective of the beautiful landscape or tapestry that it is. And when you span out, you see that all of the light and the shadow and the darkness that shows up in your life creates a really beautiful picture. When you're down in it or you're focused too narrow on the situation that you're in, it either looks like dark or light or something in between that you can't quite figure out. And so we stay muddled in that kind of confused state. But as we grow in our spirituality and we can really span out and look at the big picture of everything, we realize that every moment, every step through the light, every slip into the dark, every stumbling of confusion created a beautiful painting known as you.
Yes, 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 yes. I love that. Yeah, so this is good information because listen, life is hard enough without, when you're just shooting darts in the dark, right? If you can understand what the signs, what the symbols, we didn't talk about this, but the alchemist talks about the wonders, signs and wonders. And if you can figure out the signs to either personal growth, the signs to whether the 4 pillars that SIMRAN talked about, it's a beautiful thing. It's exciting. That will unleash so much of your inner worlds and make you understand definitely your ministry, what you're supposed to do, your purpose, the whole bit where you're supposed to get to in life. So that's amazing. All right. So tell us about, I know you touched on it briefly in our conversation, but tell us about your book, Everyday Encounters with Pathways, Turning Points, and Divine Guideposts. Why did you write it? What do you want readers to walk away after reading?
I wrote signs because after 10 years, I had learned so much more from writing the first book, Conversations with the Universe. I wanted individuals of today to understand that despite what is appearing in life, that life may be hard at times, but we don't have to make it as challenging. We can utilize what life gave us as places to find reflection, as moments to pivot and go down a different pathway. We can use a sign as a turning point to create a new life, or a divine guidepost to be that confirmation of a choice that we have made. I wanted individuals to understand how to trust more, how to expand on their intuition, and that the universe really does have their back, that they are in a partnership with spirit, whether they want to acknowledge that partnership or not, that spirit is always reaching out, whether it is numbers or songs or animals or books or experiences that are happening to them, and that they simply need to look at each one and pause for a second and ask themselves, where is that in me? What is that here to show me about me? What is that inspiring within me as far as my own gifts, skills, and talents? And what is the next step of the conversation that I'm now to put into place? And as you start to understand these things, as you start to grow your connection with the practices and the protocols that I placed in the third section, you start to balance out your masculine and feminine energies. You start to see that your life is not one moment to the next moment, but entirely a threading of golden experiences that are leading you back to the truth of your soul and your expression on this planet as a beautiful human being and as a divine expression of God being. We are all God's walking with two legs, and it is time for us to shine that light fully and completely with the humility of what we are holding inside of us that is desiring to shine through.
That is beautiful. I love that. God on two legs, like that. It's a tweet. That's a tweet. I love that. I love that. But okay, so that's great. Now, did you want to touch on your trilogy of self-realization, the living, being, and knowing? Do you want to talk about those books?
Sure, I would love to. Thank you, Myrna. That's wonderful. I also published this year a trilogy that really is the multidimensional experience of being human. It is as if you had been given a set of instructions upon birth to come in with, that you would be able to encounter any and every experience of life. The seven blessings start off with the blessing of life, and in each blessing is a certain gift that we receive. In that particular blessing, we actually have the gift of signs, symbols, and synchronicities. And so
Okay.
you start to see that this cycle of seven that you live through is going to be a cycle that you repeat over and over again, because
Mm.
your growth as a human being and as a soul is not linear. It is not circular. It is a spiral that you keep going upward on. And so these are not ordinary books. You can read other books while you're reading these books. They are more like oracles to open to a.
Mm.
I tell people you won't read more than a paragraph at a time. The books won't let you. They are meant to slow you down. They are meant to remind you and help you remember the truth of who you are. And you can start with one book, or you can actually read all three at the same time by opening the correlating sections in each book and just reading one paragraph a day. They will
Oh.
introduce you to both your human self, your identity, why you operate the way you operate, and what step to take in a particular experience like chaos, challenge, obstacles, or darkness to rise to a higher octave so that you transcend that experience that you're having. The second book, Being, introduces you to your shadow, that unconscious part of us that ends up ruling our lives and we don't even know it. But not only do you meet your shadow, you're going to meet your animal, that part of you that is hungry, that keeps pushing and driving. You're going to meet your monster, that part of us that is mean, that creates the external experiences in the worlds that we would never claim as ours, but are the mirrors that we see on TV or in society. And you will meet your inner demons so that you can really befriend them and give them the love that they need so that you do achieve personal power, purpose, and peace. And the third book, Knowing, is the seven human expressions of grace. For you to receive divine grace, you must first receive your human grace. And so it walks you through the seven levels of grace so that you can remove all of the vices from your life and open to the grace that you can give yourself. So it's a beautiful trilogy. It's very deep. And again, it's meant to be read really, really slowly. You can read other things while you're reading that. These are meant to be more as divining guides that sit on your nightstand that you open up and you allow them to be medicine for the human mind and nurturing milk for the soul.
It's beautiful. Maybe I'll add them to my library. That's beautiful. I love that. I love that. Okay. All right. And of course, you covered the signs in that as well. You said the first one, living, you talk about the signs and wonders in there as well.
It has a
That's
brief
beautiful.
section in
Now I have
there.
a circle back. Something you said, again, it's probably my sign. You see, I'm open now. Something just popped into my head. Now, we were talking about Tatum that twisted his right ankle at the beginning, and you said that because he was pushing, and I'm sure he was. but I equate it to myself right now. I've been having this unusual reoccurrent pain in my knee, and I'm pushing. So my question is, for someone that's in that space right now where something has happened on their right side, whether it's, whatever it is, whether it's ankle, knee, hip, whatever, and we can see that it's because we're pushing, or the masculine energy, that kind of thing. How do you get back? How do you balance it back?
So if you find yourself in too much of the masculine and you're pushing, then you're actually in the shadow masculine, which means that you then need to go to the healthy feminine to balance that out. And the healthy feminine would ask you to rest. It would ask you to step back. It would ask you to nurture yourself and love yourself. And that means beyond bubble baths or me time or day at the beach. This means real rest. This means feeling, allowing the feelings of the things that want to come up. And your knee would tell you, your knee is holding that pain. Your knee is holding those emotions. It's holding those thoughts. It's holding those spaces of where it's being pushed beyond the limit. It's showing you your need, your NEED, that you must bend to so that you allow yourself to be refilled. And that's the beauty of the body. The body really does have all the answers and tells us everything that we are required to know about ourselves. And when you find an ache or a pain, wherever it is, it's simply the body trying to bring you back to balance.
I love that. Yes. Okay. Well, I will definitely get your book and try to understand all this. I do know, as the person that I am and the business that I do, that I have to push. I do try to get that rest that you're talking about by, the bubble baths and the music and the comedy and the walking in nature. But obviously I need to go deeper than that. So thank you for that.
Well, I think as women in particular, we have become very masculine. Most women actually are more masculine than they are feminine, and they don't realize it. If you were to do a percentage of how much masculine a woman has, you'd probably find it's between 75 and 95% as opposed to their feminine. And so we've also come up with these beliefs, or society has made us think, I have to push, I have to work. I'm in this industry, it requires it. But I would ask yourself, is that true? What if I did the opposite? Because I've had several clients that I've coached, and they've been in situations where their body is talking, and I've convinced them to pull back. I've convinced them to stop, or to take one day where they do nothing, but truly nurture their spirit. And all of a sudden their business increases and they're shocked. So if you are someone that's
Wow.
pushing too much because you just need to make more, or the business requires it, or any of that, then I invite you to pull back, because you might find taking a day off every week will actually increase your business as opposed to hurt your business. But
I love
before
that.
it does
I
that,
receive it. I work 7 days a week.
definitely. Well, and the thing is, if we
Yes.
don't listen, this I talk about in the book, how signs appear as pebbles, rocks, and boulders. Right now, this is a pebble, and you don't want to turn it into a rock or a boulder.
Right. Yes, 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 yes. I'm there. I'm there. Thank you, Simran. This is amazing. Like I said, this is deep stuff. And those of you listening, we're just whetting your appetite. In order for you to understand this, you definitely need to go out and pick up a copy of any one of her books. She said she's a 7-time author. So definitely, study her work. I'm definitely going to do it because, I'm into learning. I'm into knowledge. I'm into spirituality. I'm into making sure that my soul, we use the word spirit a lot of time, interchange for soul, but that my soul does what it's supposed to do here on this earth. So Simran, how can our listeners get a copy of your books? Tell us your website. Tell us if you're in social media. What are your handles? So they can get more that I know they need in order to really operate in this space.
Thank you, Myrna. My website is iamsimran.com, IAMSIMRAN.com. You can go there and actually get discounted prices on the bundles of the trilogy or of Conversations with the Universe and Signs. And if you want all of my books, there's actually a special price bundle for that as well. The books are available anywhere books are sold. So if you're an online shopper or you are supportive of an independent bookstore, then you can also find them or order them through there. I invite you to partake of any of my free offerings. I give a lot away through 1111 Magazine and 1111 Talk Radio in terms of content, and on any of my social media, which I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. You can look up Simran Singh 11, or you can look up I Am Simran 1111, all of which are accessible at my website, Simran. I Am Simran at iamsimran.com. That's iamsimran.com. So
I
thank
didn't
you.
get the social media handles. What is it?
Simran Singh 1111 would be Facebook and LinkedIn, and I Am Simran 1111 is Instagram.
Okay. All right. I am Simran 1111. Okay. Awesome. So thank you so much. A copy of, a transcript of my conversation with Simran will be on the show page, which is blog.myhelps.us, which I would also link out to her website and her social media handles. You're not linking out to your magazine. Do you have I can also link out to your magazine, or
The
if you wanted
magazine
me to do that.
1111mag.com. Yes.
1111mag.com. Okay. All right. Yeah, so all that will be in the show page. Simran, thank you so much for expanding our knowledge today on how the universe talks to us, signs, symbols, and synchronicities. It is a deep conversation, and it's a conversation that, we are just understanding the foundation of it. And if we wanted to, I want to be able to see signs every day. I want to be able to see symbols every day. I want to be in synchronicity every day, and not, once in a while when I remember it. In order to do that, then you've got to practice being in the space. And anything you practice then comes naturally. So yes, I will definitely pick up one or two of your books. Are any of them on Audible?
They will be on Audible in 2024, all of them.
Okay, all right, great. All right, but yeah, this is the kind of book that you need to underline and everything. It's because it's deep. But yeah, I mean, I consume most of my books now on Audible when I walk. But yeah, these are the type of books that you need to probably make notes. So excellent. All right, Simran, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom regarding on this topic. Any last words before you wrap up?
I just want to thank you for a beautiful conversation and the space that you've held, and the opportunity to be with your audience has been wonderful. I also want to express that we are in love all of the time. We are composed of love. We are here to be with love, and we are here to express as love. So walk out in love, of love, with love, and as love.
I love that. Yes, yes. One of the meditations that I do is that, you are love, right? Because if you are love, then everything that you do will be through the spirit of love. So I love that. Thank you. I will definitely make sure that I highlight that. So thank you guys for tuning in to the Transforming Mind to Transforming Life radio, podcast, and television show. If you're listening to this on iTunes, we'd love for you to rate and review. If you're watching this on YouTube, we'd love for you to subscribe. Definitely go out and pick up copies of Simran books. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. And we will see you back here next week for another episode. Until then, namaste.